Hey guys, and welcome to the Journal of Huntsman, my podcast where I talk about everything. Like the name kind of suggests, it's a audio journal for me, where I'll go over tons of ideas and thoughts that I have or just want to get out there. I made this podcast just about a year ago, and so much has changed since then. And to this day, I'm still recording. Seasons have come and gone, people in my life have come in and also left, and personally, I've been developing too. And it's wild when I think about it. If the me from a year ago could see what I'm doing and what I've become today, I wonder what I think. What about you? If you could look back at your life about a year ago today, would you picture where you're at right now? Maybe you could, or maybe you couldn't. As you think about life and what's changed in the past year, let me get into the main topic of this episode: optimism, pessimism, and how you view life. See, when people talk about optimism in a person, I feel like they usually mean the type of person that's always looking at things with rose-tinted glasses, or they're a glass half full type. And honestly, it's not wrong when they talk about it like that, but optimism is a lot more than you'd believe. Now, I believe that optimism can be tied to having hope, and honestly believing that something in the future will work out, even if you know the odds are stacked against you. This kind of hope can be comforting, and some people would like to think that it's naive and blind, but optimism without wisdom can be naive, and optimism without a sense of reality would be blind. Have you ever been told you're just a dumb optimist? I know I have. And to be honest, it always made me feel some type of way when people would talk. Like, it felt as if they were saying that being an optimist is wrong or bad in some way. I mean, isn't that weird? We talk about goodness being such a wonderful trait, and something that we should all strive for, but when we talk about optimism, we don't give it the same regard. It didn't stop me though. I just find it weird. I mean, I know I can be a dumb optimist in life, and I can act naive or blind at times. I understand it, and I recognize it. And it doesn't change the fact that I'm optimistic because I like to view things in a better light and be positive. I like it. And all of it stems from a choice that I believe affects the world that we live in, and the world that I live in. I know some of the people around me may see me as a dumb optimist sometimes. Hell, I've thought of myself that way before too. I've been asked, why am I so optimistic? My answer would have to come from the fact that I believe that my view of the world affects the world that I'm living in. And without a doubt, I truly want to be positive. See, my optimism isn't based in a seamlessly hopeful view and ignorant belief that everything will be okay. I base it off of a desire to make things work out and an understanding that whatever happens, I will survive and be okay with it. No matter how hard things get, you have to keep talking to yourself and telling yourself that it'll be fine. It'll be okay. It will work out. You'll make it. You'll get it done. And that everything will be okay. I think the best optimists make it seem so easy because they're always positive. And it makes the hard things not seem as hard. But the reality that I think a lot of people miss is that no, those hard things hit. And they suck. They really suck. They hurt. Just like they're supposed to. But it doesn't take away from the mentality that you'll notice an optimist has. The mentality that everything will be okay. Everything can be great even. When I was in high school, I believe my mom mentioned it to me, but she said that I have to be mindful of what I let enter my gates. And that line stuck with me for a while, and I began to understand how important it was later on when I got to college. Being mindful of what we let ourselves hear and see influences what we think about and what we believe. It took me some more time to understand it, but all of these things that influence us change what we see or think about as being real. If you only hear about the worst things happening in the world and focus on the negative in your life, then your view of things and thus life itself will become negative. Perception is this nasty and tricky little thing. What your mind and heart believe in can literally decide how you view and see everything. And while I admit being optimistic is wonderful, truth be told, I think it's one of the hardest things to do. Because when you're optimistic, you have to be hopeful. It's like this persistent idea stuck in your mind that things should work out and everything can be okay after the storm has passed. The trick is making it look easy, but it has and was never meant to be easy for a person. Sticking to hope and remaining optimistic is one of the hardest things people have to go through. Regardless of how hard it may be, I think that we should be optimistic though. The fact that it's so hard just shows how important and valuable that it can be. Smiling, laughing, or feeling things like joy, happiness, and love, they're priceless in the world today. And being optimistic is right up there with them. And, I think I want to change my previous statement. The trick isn't making it look easy. The trick is really about choosing what you want to see while acknowledging that it may not be perfect. It's a conscious choice to be optimistic. Just like so many other things in our lives, you have to make a choice. I think the question many of us wonder is how? How do we keep that feeling going? How do we keep being optimistic? And that's not a new question. I think if the problem was easy, all of us would have an answer to it by now, but the point is for it to be hard. That's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it worthwhile. That's what makes it valuable. We keep having to chase for an answer. We keep having to look for it for ourselves, building upon ideas that may not be ours, but we can internalize and add to our own. It's supposed to be difficult. We can all take a step at a time and look for the answer for ourselves. We can do research, read, watch videos, look at studies that talk about all these different things, and where would we be after that? Well, we'd probably know a little bit more about optimism, and that's kind of what I've done. Time spent looking into research and books and videos, a lot of videos, trying to help me form a better picture and put together this whole thing for myself. And will I go into everything that I found? No. But everything that I've found has influenced what I have to say and how I think about the subject. This will be more like my philosophical take on optimism, and why perception is crucial to how we live. So let's start here. What is optimism? Google says it's a hopeful and confident feeling about the future or a present situation. Nice. That's easy, short, and simple. Next, how about what does optimism feel like? And take a second to feel it out for yourself. Try thinking back to a time when things felt hard, but you didn't let the hardship take over. Think about it. Remember, feel it out, and ask yourself, how did it feel when you were hopeful or when you were confident? The times that I've felt most optimistic have also been when I've met some of the simplest and biggest challenges in my life. I've had to describe it. It's like a kind of light that just shines in the air. Everything just looks brighter, at least for me. And this is me trying to remember the feeling. It's when I am faced with difficulty, you'll see me close my eyes a lot. As long as I'm in the right mindset, I'll be walking around sometimes, and I'll just remember that I have to appreciate the day. I have to appreciate what's going on, and I will be okay. And so I'll close my eyes, take a breath, and when I open my eyes, things do seem lighter. Things do seem better. And sometimes it's like a kind of fire that I feel in my chest, and I just feel stronger. Sometimes it's like I can see a path forward when I thought it wasn't there. And it took me years to understand and notice what it felt like and believe it for myself. Like when I was younger, I was a paradox. Externally, I could make myself be as optimistic as I wanted, but internally, I would consider myself far more pessimistic. I viewed the world with a very harsh light, and if you can imagine a kind of melancholic or melodramatic lighting in a movie, that's how I viewed a lot of things. And so, if optimism is what it feels like to have hope and confidence about a situation in the future, then pessimism is what it feels like to be lacking hope or confidence. Not just that, but it's focusing on the worst things in life and the worst that can happen. Pessimism is difficult. Not in the same way that optimism is difficult, but I wonder how should I describe it? I guess it's like a dark hole that keeps sucking you in. It's comforting because you don't have to really try. You can accept it. You can just accept that life's hard and just have the expectation that things will remain that way. Never hoping for something better or having the confidence in yourself or others. I didn't like being pessimistic because of that feeling. It felt easy to just kind of wallow in the sadness of the world. Things not working out, problems being hard to solve, situations just feeling unfair overall. Being pessimistic felt like a cop-out. And I still did it, but I did it in order to balance myself out. What I think is hard to believe for everyone is that it's all subjective and based off your perception. That's how everything works overall. Our lives are just a jumble of things that we believe based off our own perceptions. What's good, bad, wonderful, or terrible? The only thing that matters is what you think and how you view any of it. If if perception is like a scale, then seeing the best in the world tilts your scale to optimistic, and seeing the worst in the world tips your scale towards being pessimistic. And somewhere in the middle is where you're just being realistic. It's not what it's not that you have some crazy sense of hope about everything, or you just have this defeated view of stuff as well, but being realistic is kind of seeing things for what they are. And there's a phrase that I've started hearing a lot in the past few years. It is what it is. A short kind of slogan, but what it means is that you have to accept the situation for what it is. I don't think it's about seeing something as particularly good or particularly bad, but it's happening. And you have to handle it somehow. And being sad about it won't help at all. And being too excited about stuff will probably hurt you too. And so what do we do? When life gets tough, when things feel sometimes too good or just out of place, what do we do? And I can't tell you what you should do, but I can talk about what I've done and why it's worked for me. For a big part of my life, I've been focused on building this mentality where I reach balance. Not trying to be too much of one thing, but also not trying to lean too much in the opposite direction. Like opposites, they exist all around us, all in the world, and they're concepts that we talk about all the time. Good and bad, life and death, poor and rich, love and hate, virtue and evil. Concepts and ideas that swirl around everywhere you look and attract so much of our attention. What if they weren't opposites? What if they were two parts of the exact same thing? The only reason we didn't notice it is because our perception is so geared towards only accepting one of them and not the other. Life and death. They're both concepts focused on our existence. The life that we live and the experiences we gather as time moves on. Our memories, feelings, thoughts, and marks that we've left in the world. Life only has meaning because death exists, and death is only possible since life takes place. The two need each other in order to function. One is not more important than the other, but oftentimes we like to think of life being more beautiful than death. And we don't ask ourselves the question of, is it? Or how about this one? Rich and poor. Again, two concepts that work in our lives all the time. And it feels like it's wrong to be poor in today's world, and everyone is striving to become more and more rich, but what do they mean? Rich is an abundance of resources, while poor is a severe lacking of resources. The thing that we forget is that it's not just about money. Everything can be a form of resource if you change how you think about it. Time, skills, experiences, dreams, feelings, friends, and yes, wealth as well. We strive to be rich in only one of these paths, and so our focus is on a single point. Wealth, normally, at least. What if you stretch out that focus and split it up more? Focus on not just being rich in a monetary sense, but in a personal sense or a communal sense. Being rich in skills, rich in experiences, rich in your dreams, your feelings, your friends, and rich in your family life. While you may be poor in one sense, that does not mean you can't be rich in another. The last one that I'll speak on is hatred and love. A pair of the most personal and impactful feelings we can experience as people. Two of the most important feelings that I do experience. Love is almost indescribable, and yet we can say that it's a feeling of deep affection or fondness towards a person or thing. A great sense of liking and care. While hatred, being the opposite, is a great feeling of dislike or ill will towards a person or thing. Even though it's love's opposite, I still feel like hatred can be hard to describe. We don't always understand why we hate or dislike something. It's just a feeling. We also don't always understand why we like or care for something as well. They're all so uncontrollable yet similar at times. And what I've come to notice is to love is to risk bearing hatred, and to hate is an opportunity to show love. And there's a quote that I love from Naruto that shook my entire understanding of these two, and it's from one of the series' bigger villains, Madara Uchiha. The selfish intent of wanting to preserve peace initiates wars, and hatred is born in order to protect love. These are nexuses, causal relationships that cannot be separated. The two things that I came back picking apart of my brain were the first part, hatred is born in order to protect love, and the second part, these are nexuses, causal relationships that cannot be separated. Now, I'm going to go over the first part in another video, because I think the idea of hatred and love is such a broad concept that I have to talk about it again. But the second part, the part about these concepts being nexuses and causal relationships, leans in the direction of what I've been trying to speak on. Optimism and pessimism are two ways we can view life. We can view ourselves and the situations going on around us, but they're all dependent on one another. Can you really appreciate an optimistic take on something without knowing it could be worse? Or could you really understand a pessimistic approach without knowing that something could be better? How you view things makes the complete and total difference between what they are. These ideas and things aren't separate. They're working together in a relationship, giving you the chance to truly see life, to be realistic. And the trick is altering your perception, altering how you think of them. So next time you find yourself feeling pessimistic, why don't you ask yourself, what could go right? Or when you're feeling optimistic, give yourself a breath to ask, what could go wrong? And more than that, try reaching a middle ground between the two, because that is life. When you come to realize that, whatever is going on in your life may be far less overwhelming to think about. But you'll probably be able to live with more passion as well. You take a step towards quieting the noise around you, and you come to understand yourself even more. Because life and death are just parts of our existence and time on earth. If being rich and poor are just notions of abundance or scarcity, and if love and hatred are just feelings that we feel very intensely, we're the ones that experience all of it. And it's your life. What matters is you. Now, that is the gist of the episode. Thank you for listening, and I hope you were able to absorb some of what I was talking about for yourself. Do with the information what you will, but if you can, let me know if you rocked with it, didn't like it, or if anything resonated with you at all. And until next time, don't forget to write, journal, speak your mind, and take a step back to appreciate the things around you. Till next time.